Today I'm going to hopefully show you how to manually, or as a human, distribute silver birch seeds in an area where they will take hold. Silver birch is a species they call a pioneering species, so it can often inhabit barren, dry, otherwise nutritionless soil and create a protoforest, allowing other less adaptable species to come in afterwards and populate, and then you can become go through the forest stages, get different species in. What I've got here on the bottom, these are the seed pods. There's, I think, at the average for a mature silver birch tree, they can release something like 80,000 of these, and each contain about 120 or 130 seeds. I've also included this is the male at the top. You don't really, obviously, you can just leave them on the tree. Just to show you the difference in the size. One is usually longer and thicker. If they're both the same length, which is possible, it's usually the thicker one. You can also test that. If you take the seed-bearing female pod and just sort of pinch it with 2 fingers this side, 2 on the other, and just twist it in half, you'll break the spine that runs down the middle, and all the seeds will come out. And the seeds will kind of just come out like this. And these are exceptionally small. You can maybe see on some of them that they have like wings either side. This just allows them to disperse in the air so that they can travel further away from the parent seed. Now, I've been collecting these for quite a while, so that's an enormous amount, obviously. I think about 50,000 seeds in here. And it's not particularly heavy either. If I just hopefully bring these scales around, and of course we don't work. They work now. So that's detecting minus 15 grams just now. So we say there are approximately 155, 160 grams, minus the weight of the dish, which is about, pardon me. This is the Benahee range where I'm hoping to disperse the seeds today. This is looking down the slopes. We're maybe at 200, 300 meters above sea level here, so you can see it's marked by a sort of fairly characteristic sort of evergreen fir tree variety, mostly Scots pine. Also, there's quite a lot of low-lying vegetation, some thick sort of grasses, but predominantly this sort of heather. This is now looking up the hill. As you can see there, the tree level becomes far more sparse, but all the way to the summit, just from experience, I know this, that there is like that low-lying heather dominates this landscape. It's essentially monopolised the available land, probably because it just does very well in this sort of poor quality, poor nutrition, thin soils. But also the silver birch does as well, which I've noticed. I can't find any here, but once I go a bit further up the hill, I'll let you know the altitude I'm at and the sort of prevalence of silver birch seedlings. Here's an example of a very, very small silver birch that's growing up here, probably a year or 2 old. It's quite stunted in its height because it's not a particularly good environment for it. Also, some other ones out here are a bit more established, sort of spreading canopy. And you can see why they're so rare up here. In order for a seed to get up here, it has to have a hell of a lot of energy in the atmosphere to carry it up here. Like I said before, it does have tiny little wings that allow it to spread through an aeolian sort of system. And around here, what I found is there's far more trees like this fir tree, and there's, they're every 13, 14 steps essentially, from what I counted on average, and it's largely because there is an established level of species up here, and the seeds are obviously far closer. They just have to come down the hill, but coming up the hill is a different matter, which is kind of the idea behind this sort of rewilding approach of transporting the seeds up high to cascade down. I've come up a further 500-600 meters just climbing along the path, and I found this just as I approached, continuing the path. It's probably of a mature silver birch that's perhaps seed bearing, and And that explains the increased prevalence of silver birch I found on the path just leading up here. I maybe went past a further 10 or 15. And that's odd going higher up the hill. If this tree wasn't here, I would expect it to be, if anything, less dense or more sparse. So this is a good example of why it's necessary to have these mature trees high up if you can establish them. Again, this is the aim of what I'm trying to achieve. So hopefully, you know, I can walk back down this path, spreading wherever I've got 30,000 seeds and maybe some mature trees in the future. I'm going to pick this location to deposit the seeds. Reason being, there's a bit of a strong wind going down here. Just a path that runs along. We're about 350 meters above sea level, so not particularly high up for cold. Although often you will see that Benihee, the range, obviously gets covered by snow first. But I think the sort of a little bit of shelter offered by this, I don't know what you call it, a little valley almost. Also, I can see from here that there's very, very few trees, so in future when I'm walking along here, I can essentially see that whether the trees have grown. And I'm just going to be taking a pinch at a time, walking along the path and just spreading them. Hopefully they go quite far. It's quite thick, heathery ground, which is good. It means the roots of the heather are essentially open tiny crevices where these tiny little seeds can go inside, and hopefully a little forest can grow. Well, that's it. I have I'm back at the car park here. No, I'm not. I'm here. So I walked up here above the tree line. You can see this sort of forested area here, and the seeds I distributed were probably around that area there. Hosey's Well, I think it's called, Maiden Causeway. So that was 27,000 seeds distributed really over maybe a kilometre at most. And I guess I'll probably have a follow-up video at some point in the future showing whether it worked. Give it a year, 2 years, something like that, see what happens. I'm down way into the forest line now, and you can see there's lots of beech trees, something you could never sustain up there with the thin soils. But this has been Benihee, and this has been DIY Rewilding. Hopefully it works.